Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being so patient as we've been so delayed in getting our sessions into place today. Today, we're going to talk about something that means a lot to me, and that is why we look at the Indian consumer market only as a subset as compared to the whole market that exists in India, right? When we talk about D2C, where are our consumers? They're not shopping only online, they're shopping everywhere. They've been shopping everywhere else a lot longer than they've been shopping online. So while we had this little blip called COVID, in which we all changed our shopping habits, as that has receded, I think we've all seen a huge comeback in consumers wanting to have the entire experience, the full stack experience of looking at what's available, why it's available, what else is there, how can it be better. Right? And it's with that in mind today that we're going to have a discussion with a very diverse panel that we have here. We have some retailers, we have some insurgent brands, and we have some extremely well-established brands, right? So, there you are, Satish. So the two main ones that I'll start off with here in Anil, let's start with you, right? We've seen all through the day today how the e-commerce players have really leveraged looking at their data, fine-tuning and chopping it up into a way that really makes it very strong for a brand to make an impact. How have you, as an offline player, you leveraged the data that you have?
Very relevant at this point of time, and from an offline perspective. We've been, let me call it, sitting on data for so long, yeah, and looking at what technology can do to data and how we can dissect and get an opportunity out of it from the e-commerce players. We have started consolidating our data into a single location and try to figure out, while we work on, as LuLu, we work on multiple channels, we have consolidated that into a single platform and try to dissect it in from all the parts of visible possible. Because we have larger data in terms of retail, in terms of mall, and other channels. In e-commerce, we are not way huge, but that's a channel for us where we know your behavior. So if Anil walks into any one of this channel, I know Anil, and we are trying to harness that data to understand what are different profiles he's carrying at different channels, and try to create an image out of him or a profiling out of him, which can then fuel our personalization engines. That's where we are right now standing on, and thanks to e-commerce, that journey has been expedited to a level where we are now trying to catch up with them.
Wonderful. That's really great, because that personalization of data that you have access to, because you actually see your customer compared to some of others who may not be physically seeing their customer. So let me bring this to you, Satish, right? We have seen the e-commerce players really embrace insurgent brands in a way that no other time period in our life has done, correct? Even prior to this, it's always been about market share, right? Or it's always been about how you can break that entry barrier with bags of money. What have you at Arvind done to support insurgent brands? Where do you think they stand in the scheme of things?
So are you saying, the question is, how are we actually positioning ourselves as established brands vis-a-vis insurgent brands? Is that what?
So you're a multi-brand player, right? How do you see insurgent brands affecting your business, and how do you embrace them into your platform?
Sure. See, I think, let me answer it in two folds, right? One is, I think at the core ethos of all our brands is really the product, right? And the proposition it actually represents. So if you look at something like a flying machine, it is one of the decadal, probably generational, youth brand, and it remains to be that. And we would never do anything which will actually, dilute or change the proposition of that brand. We will only do things which will actually make the brands more consumable in multiple formats, be it offline, be it D2C, be it available through marketplace. And we have a lot of online for online, SMUs, getting into new type of, bestseller categories within that, right? So in a way, it is, I would say, a slightly inward-focused approach, but with a very high degree of conviction in what we need to do with respect to the brand, right? If you look at some of our other brands like Arrow, for instance, and of course, I'm a technologist by nature, and what we do in terms of technology and process to actually support this is to ensure that, we have data at the center of all decision making. We have, a flight path in terms of, what has been some of the performances of the seasonal products, and how do we actually convert some of the seasonal product into, bestsellers, so that, we don't end up in a pile of EOSs and discounting and stuff like that, which further makes, the consumer lose the confidence on the brand, right? So ensuring that the data is at the center of all these decision making, and making sure that we have a huge pipeline of replenishment supply chain projects, which make sure that things like endless sale and save the sale and inter-store transfers and all that stuff are actually delivered, because fashion is essentially subject to cut sizes, especially at the end of the season. So the amount of mobility that we have with respect to identifying some of these cut size issues, for instance, and then complementing them with full size, so that the assortment can be presented completely to the consumer at the right time, at the right place, and where it is selling, are all technology interventions which actually make it happen, right? So while I agree that none of these can be 100% moat to an insurgent band or anything like that, but I think end of the day, we have to stand our ground, and we have to solidify our processes, and we'll have to run our business based on the data. And we have, touch wood, we've been doing pretty well in that direction so far.
Wonderful. So let's take it to one of the insurgent brands here and their experience with trying to enter the larger retail platforms, whether online or offline, right? So any one of you may want to take this up.
Thank you, Harshita. So my name is Gaurav, and I run Wellbe Foods, which is a CPG snacking food company with a distribution in 3 big cities, as well as online platform. Now, when it comes to the position of an insurgent brand, I think it's certainly from a unified perspective is what we look at it. When you look at offline retail, it's not a competing channel to D2C and direct to customer. It's something that needs to go hand in hand, which is the position that we've taken as well. While from an offline distribution perspective, we work in the key 3 cities of Bangalore, Chennai, and Hyderabad, we're also now suddenly opening up our brand pan-India from the online platforms. Now it's the online platforms that immediately open our access across India. So say for some of the large online platforms, they immediately open out 95% of the PIN codes across India. And it is with this access to customers and this direct access to customers that it makes things even viable for insurgent and upcoming brands. But as an upcoming brand, I think it's the three key things that actually differentiate it with some established brands and offline distribution, which comes down to accessibility, adaptability, and then authenticity. Now, accessibility is immediately, through online platforms, we have access pan-India. When it comes to authenticity, when it comes to adaptability, brands, D2C brands have the ability to hear from their customers, build a brand narrative, and also position themselves with a value-based positioning that brands and consumers resonate with. If you look at studies, more and more increasingly, consumers that are going through the cycle right now within the age of 25 to 35, 40% of consumers are willing to look at value-based attributes. And it's with these value-based attributes that D2C brands are really adept at kind of positioning and connecting with consumers. And then finally, when it comes to authenticity, I mean, it becomes it's about providing elements of traceability, where the food has come from and how it's being presented to the consumers. So it's these 3 key differentiators and pillars that help D2C brands position themselves and certain brands position themselves with more established brands. I can, well, putting on the hat of the offline retailer, as I run the Organic World, which has 17 locations and 17 stores in Bangalore, when it comes to offline, it has its own strengths. Its strengths of being able to add a physicality to the product, so people are able to look, feel, touch, taste through sampling, through tasting, through other activities at the stores. So it's immediately a connected consumer to make that first purchase and that first sale. And then finally, when it comes to actually picking between D2C or a retail offline perspective, it finally comes down to who has power in the equation. And that power is derived by who the consumer gives power to. Is the consumer giving power to the brand, or is the consumer giving power to the retailer by visiting the retailer or buying something online?
But have you faced any challenges as you've tried to expand in offline? Yeah?
No doubt. I mean, when we look at offline distribution, again, it comes down to the power of the brand and the maturity of the brand that we're at. Now, if we're immediately able to connect with consumers, the consumers themselves go offline and say, why don't you stock this brand? And then retailers come and speak to us to say, hey, please stock our brand. Now, on the other side, if we go to markets where consumers have not heard of our brand, we have to convince the retailer. There are large listing fees, there are large marketing activations that go on at the store level. So this is all very capital intensive. So that makes it a lot more, I'd say, difficult for insurgent brands to step in.
Yeah. So I'll add to that specificity because that's something I've faced. We have faced at abCoffee. So give you a hindsight, we are India's first specialty tech-enabled chain to bring specialty coffee to the masses. And our mission is to democratize specialty coffee. Cluttered market, as coffee it is, big players, as the names they are, both Indian and from outside India. So when we entered, I remember a year and a half back, and we all are competing in the same space for the same retail store, right? Smaller sizes, different sizes. So at that point in time, you talk to the brand or you talk to the retailer or the owner, the only brand you have is the founder himself, right? So at that point in time, what I used to sell, that I'm from IIT, and that's sold, and that's how you acquire the property. And it took a long lead time because closing the property, convincing the owner, because the brand doesn't have a strength, and you're competing with established, backed, deep pocket brands. It's difficult. Today, with the brand, again, as Gaurav said, the brand takes its own stage, its own path, and then eventually that authenticity builds in. And now today we can sign up 10 properties at XYZ places at one go, is because the brand built the credibility. Again, in all of these, I would just say that one thing that helps insurgent brands or the startups is we can be bold and be out there. I remember one of the things in one of the corporate parks we were entering, and there was one of our competition, one of the largest one in the country, and the guy said, they are already there. How will you compete? I said, give me a month. I'll make them run for money. I'll win. That's happening today, right? Because we can be bold. We can experiment. We can go out there and try as many things as we can. And that's why we exist as a startup or an insurgent brand. So I think these 2 things have happened. And I'm very honest, it's difficult. But it works out if the things, product, and people are placed right.
So staying persistent with your goal, being nimble and flexible to see what you can do differently is how you fight, right, as an insurgent brand.
Absolutely, you have to be persistent. You'll be run off, you'll be phased off, you'll be stroke off. But then again, as long as you're clear, you are there, you want to do it, you will get it done, you get it done. I mean, startups have the flexibility to be bold and be out there. I think that's one thing that's key to our existence.
Ayush, do you want to add anything to this? You've been an established brand for decades now, right? You had to adapt yourself to come online in these last few years, right? And there's been a lot of new players, right? Including the international world has opened up to India as well in the shoe space. What are your comments on this?
So Ayush Bansal from Liberty Shoes. So this was, at the starting before COVID, when we were seeing offline and online as a competition, we were always figuring out an area where we can find a place and there is no competition between the two. And at that point of time, the online business suffered for us. And we were not able to compete with the insurgent brands or the international brands who had better control over the online space. It was only, I would say, in 2019-20 when we understood that the customer is evolving and customer wanted very different products for both the markets. For our brand, for example, a certain set of customers will do a walk-in to our brand. We are a family footwear brand. So people or age group of 40 plus would enter a brand, or kids under 10 would enter a brand. And the generation from 10 to 40 will not be easily entering our retail. So we realized that this is the segment that we can really target well from online business. And we were able to launch brands which cater to this segment. And we were able to really grow up to numbers which were 8,000-10,000 pairs per day just by launching these new brands to capture the market, which led to a scenario which there was no competition from my offline channel, which is a lot of franchisees, which are business owners, and they don't like me competing with them when I'm doing it online. And this really helped me to increase my walk-ins with this generation from 15 to 40 years, started entering my retail because they had an experience online about my brand, and generation who are above 40 going online. So this, everybody talks about technology integration when they talk about offline, online, and how can they assist. But for me, Omni is also when you're able to kind of increase your customer base with different channels and use your network to assist both of them for better experience. And I think our growth in last 2 to 3 years has come because of our new customers that we added, because of serving them from various mediums.
Thank you. That was really good answer. Thank you. So Teja, let's take it to you, right? You're sitting on 15 brands in the food and beverage space, right? Restaurants, bars, microbreweries, all hardcore offline businesses, right? Find the space, rent it out, fit it out, market yourself, and make your own space. How do you leverage between both channels? How do you use an e-commerce base to build an offline business?
So I'm Teja Chekuri from Ironhill. So we are not much into online business. Our business is mainly offline. So, but we do marketing online, and most of our marketing is digital. So we do online and offline marketing and in-store advertising. So we follow all the models for advertising, and the other thing is we work on data. So like say, for example, if you're making our menu or doing anything new or planning to do something new, it's all mostly based on the data we have. So we use these data and the marketing technologies, but we're not into online sales yet. Mostly we should be there sometime soon.
So let's bring it to the big bad boy of retail now, Arpan. Right, AJIO. There's, y'all are doing big things in fashion and in luxury, right? It gives a great platform to the established brands to do even more, right? What does AJIO do to help insurgent brands also get a foot in, right? Do you see an importance in that?
Sure. Firstly, thank you for inviting me here. Arpan, I had marketing at AJIO. I was reading an article today morning in ET Prime, which said that the big boys in the industry, in the apparel industry, are struggling quarter on quarter. Obviously, one of the reasons being the calendar has shifted a bit because of Diwali, but otherwise the numbers don't look that great. Thanks to the D2C brands, which have emerged in the last few years, right? At AJIO, we have already done it. If you have come across an article called on AJIOgram, we have given space to more than 100 plus brands, D2C brands, because we see it's a huge, huge market, more than $2 billion currently valuation. So we see a huge opportunity for D2C brands to grow, thanks to number one, nimbleness, as some of you already mentioned. D2C brands find their own niche, brands like Urban Monkey, brands like Creature of Habit, right? They're on a platform as well, and they have found their own niche, doing decently well, a brand like Beoku for that matter. I think secondly, we also give them subsidized rates for marketing and reaching out to a huge base of customers which we have. We have seen decent growth. It's early days. We have just launched this platform a month back. If you guys on the phone currently, if you can go to the AJIO app and you can see a banner of AJIOgram, which hosts more than 100 plus such brands. We are also giving them a lot of insights in terms of the kind of customers that come to our app in terms of psychographics, demographics, the right cohorts for them. So AJIO hosts 3 different platforms. One is for AJIO Lux, one is for the AJIO Code, and third is AJIOgram. So you can market yourself on the other platforms as well if you think your product is catering to that base, depending on the price and the designs of the product. So yes, AJIO has done its bit in the last few months, and obviously we want to invest more in these brands. And the objective of AJIOgram is very simple. We want to create 100 plus fashion unicorns from India, because if you see, India stands nowhere when it comes to fashion. Most of the major fashion players are from Europe, the West. So I think there's a huge, huge opportunity. If you go back some 500, 600 years, India used to be the house of fashion. So I see a huge opportunity for D2C brands in India. Yeah.
For Western and Indian both, right?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, great. So Gaurav, let's explore your space where you've done FMCG also, retail also, online also, offline also. What do you see the next 3 or 4 years looking like for brands such as you that, straddle so many different parts of the business?
Sure, Harshita, that's a great question. I think a lot of the steps going forward over the next couple of years is primarily going to be driven by the consumer. And it's a consumer that's going to force the brands and offline to actually join hands and kind of walk hand in hand, at least when it comes to unified approach to going to the market. Again, it's not one versus the other. It's very much each of them are channels. And it's the customer's expectation and the evolution and the expectation that's driving this change. Now, if they demand convenience, D2C it is. I mean, it's got to be delivered immediately. Or it could be walk down to the neighborhood kirana store and to pick up the product, right? So it's very much going to be driven by the evolution of the expectation of the customer. And this is going to force to take a unified approach into the market. So I think it's largely the customer driven.
That's a very interesting point that we can all maybe talk about is what is the consumer actually ready to do now in their shopping patterns, right? We've seen many panels today where they're literally standing in the store and looking at the app. They're looking at the app and buying it later in the store. How do you see this affecting decision making going forward? Anyone, whoever wants to take it.
So let me kind of give it a shot. See, I think it really depends on the product, right? I think if you look at if you break down, for instance, our categories, some of them are very core categories, right? So and it depends on the occasion, right? So for instance, if you're doing a wedding shopping, or if you're doing a Diwali shopping, you would probably like to have it as a family occasion and then do it together, right? So so I think one is what we call as the event itself is a stimulus for the behavior, right? But irrespective, I think from a technology perspective, the discoverability of the product, with endless aisle type of solutions, with solutions where we are able to fulfill the demand even offline if it is not available in a store, based on the CRM data, or use the CRM to more effectively nudge on certain lost sale opportunities to follow up on them, are fundamentals that need to remain, right? So that I think broadly these are principles which we use to address the scenarios, but the scenarios itself could change, right?
Scenarios change, and we are not fickle shoppers, but we like to shop everywhere. So as long as we are present where they are, it all works out. Yeah.
You want me to answer? It's an interesting take that I'll say. So let's say 10 years back, if you had to go to a restaurant, what did we do? Probably ask a family friend, or let's say if you're traveling to Bombay, if you're sitting right now in Bangalore, we're traveling to Bombay, you'll ask your friends around, which is the best restaurant, correct? How many of you today, if you have to explore a restaurant, open Zomato Gold or Dine Out or Google? Majority, I guess. I see some shy hands coming up. So, that's one of the things that we do in F&B. The entire specifically for food and beverage, the entire pattern for ordering discoverability has evolved COVID and post-COVID. Like there is no restaurant today, like full F&B beverage spectrum, like very few probably, except the fine dining and niche, is that you have to have an online space, which is Swiggy, Zomato, delivery partners. The reason is now the discoverability has changed. It has gone from just looking at the store and figuring out and then going and asking your family friends, but rather checking out the rating on Swiggy and Zomato and then trying it out in store. And I think that's particular omni-channel feel, be it fashion, be it food, be it all the channels. This is where India has evolved post-COVID. And online and offline, the entire mix of it, I believe, specifically food and beverage, that's where I can say, I'm not an expert in others, is that if it exists today and thrive, the only way to thrive is to be omni-channel to go through, because online will kill your margins. You don't make money there. That's a fact. And offline is where it comes in, but how will you drive the footfall? So there has to be an omni-channel balance between the two, and that's what even customers today are following.
So there are a lot of tools that are available for online sales, right? I mean, we've met many people today. The fly fish one was very interesting, and green honchos, etc. They do so much to help enable online businesses. Offline businesses, do you see people helping brands get offline at all? Do you see any of you retailers? If you want
Tough. Not many that I have discovered so far.
No, there are. So if you look at from where we were and where we are now, there are a couple of them. And see, from this whole offline, online, now it's kind of become online everywhere. If you're offline store also, it is brick and mortar, but at the end of the day, what do? You're giving some kiosk to make that endless aisle, you're getting your checkouts on cloud, and all of that gimmicks in which you are playing, right? That's what online also is doing. What else online is doing? Online is trying to bring in the complete feel factor, right? We are giving the feel factor in the store, plus we are giving you touch and feel. That's what technology is bringing onto the store. It's blurred that whole line which was there, so-called offline and online. As you rightly said, people are looking here, buying there, picking out from the same store, and so on and so forth. So I think from an offline retailer perspective, we have come a long way. We have come a long way, and we are somewhere online, offline, omni-channel. You can put all the jargons onto that. I think we are there. So there is nothing called as where do offline stand or where do online stand as today. We are all over.
So the market is large. The channels are many. The brands in a country like India, which is so entrepreneurial, will never stop coming. Okay, the entrepreneurial spirit will never allow us to just take whatever anyone says, as this young man over here is very much testament to, right? Let's see where this next, this very interesting time takes us. With that, we can open up to questions, if there are any, from the panel.
So just a question for AJIO, okay? When we build so many brands and when we invite so many brands, how do you handle the availability factor? Because it's not a matter of visiting 40 million people on one single day where only 2 million or even 40,000 are buying, because it's not a traffic, it's a conversion which makes a difference. So how do you handle when you have such a big scale?
How do you handle what?
Availability of those.
Availability, yeah, right. I think the objective of AJIO, right, if we go back a year, when we thought of the reason of launching AJIOgram was very simple. These all 100+ brands which we have on the platform right now find it extremely difficult to be discovered. They are discovered on social media, Instagram and Facebook primarily. They used to sell on these platforms, and we all know the ROAS. I hope there's no one from Meta here. we all know the ROAS is not really supporting these brands, and they end up spending a hell lot of money. The maximum chunk of money is in the P&L go to marketing, right? So the simple objective was we have a huge base of customers who come to us. And these customers, post-COVID, not just post-COVID, with westernization and changing in behavior with more disposable income, they want different kind of products based on the psychographics, based on the international travels, based on new designs which they have seen some celeb wear, right? Keeping that in mind, the simple problem we want to solve for these D2C brand founders was, these founders are extremely good at their product. They know pricing, they understand the designs, but when it comes to marketing, they struggle. Because of the cost, because of the understanding as well. Can I go on?
Must you? Must you?
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. Go on, finish, of course.
Cool, thanks. So the challenge the founders find is to marketing and reach out to these folks. Now, from a customer point of view, when you come across this ad on Instagram, you have to bookmark that page because you have to again go back to the website or app, and there's trust issues trying out new product. That's why the AJIO platform was formed. Now, how do we ensure that these brands get visibility on the platform? We have a different store for that. Now, it's like for folks who are in Bangalore, if you're standing in front of VR as well as in front of Phoenix, you get to decide which store you want to go to, right? Based on your mood that day, based on the preferences which you have. So once they go to the store, we have ensured that it's not sold by categories. If any of you want to explore that page, it's sold by brand. So there's no category on AJIO. It's all brands. If you want to go to Creatures of Habit, you have to go to the page, then you can check out all the products which they have. Also based on personalization, we have three different storefronts. For each storefront, we showcase products based on the previous behavior, right? If someone is buying product worth more than 5,000, say 60 or 70% of the purchases were priced more than 5,000, I'll be showing a premium product to him or her next time, and also reach out to him through CRM, WhatsApp, SMS the next time with the right. That's how we go about it, showing the right product to the right platform, because thanks to digital, we can show 1 lakh different ads to 1 lakh different people, right? I hope I answered your question. Thanks.
We good?
So that was it. Thank you all very much for a very interesting session. It was a very diverse crowd of people, and I hope we will all be as diverse in our choices of where we shop and give all channels a chance, and that's when we'll have unified commerce. Yeah? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.